Greetings and welcome to Growth Hacking Secrets. I'm your host Mohammed Siddique from Atlanta, Georgia, and the co-author of New Success Secrets available on Amazon. On this episode, we have a special guest, Phil Pelucha. Phil is a growth strategist at Billionaires in Boxers. Please join me to give a warm welcome to our guest, Phil Pelucha. Phil, welcome.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Yeah, likewise. Let me start with this. Where were you? What happened? Who were you surrounded with that inspired you to do what you do today?
That's a good question. I'm a big believer in your vibe attracts your tribe, right? So when you start kind of doing certain things, you'll find that people sort of flock to you, and you'll meet the right people when you're supposed to meet them. So what I do today actually kind of grew out of necessity, believe it or not. So I'm not from a publicist background. I'm not even from a media background. I'm a chartered surveyor by training, and I'd left the corporate world, having worked for some of the world's largest real estate businesses at board level, and went to go and do my own thing, and it didn't work. It went really, really badly. I didn't know how to win clients because I'd always had a marketing team over here and a sales team over here that just made it happen. So as far as I was concerned, leads and new opportunities just found their way to your email inbox, right? There was nothing that you actually had to go out and do some active work for. So I'd grown and sold two sports podcasting networks sort of about 11, 12 years ago. And I love podcasting. It had been a great networking tool. But one of the things that it had really shown me was that you can meet some very influential and powerful people and get to kind of rub shoulders with the right kind of people just by networking at a higher level. So when I was struggling with my business, I decided to see if I could make this work for business. So very primitive strategy when I first started, but I made a list of the top 100 companies that I'd love to work with. And I invited each of their CEOs onto a podcast, not to sell them anything, just to build a relationship with them and to learn from them. And they were the people that really kind of surrounded me at that time. And our business went from me being sat in the kitchen with my head in my hands thinking I'm never going to win money ever again, to having 21 of us globally full-time working on some of the biggest projects in the industry at the time. And that all came about through meeting and surrounding myself with the right people, which is why I'm so passionate about helping others to do that for their respective businesses.
What an amazing story. And in fact, we are doing the same thing. That's why we have you on the show to build a relationship with Sim. We are in the similar
Absolutely.
background.
Absolutely, dude.
What are the top 3 mistakes to avoid?
Good question. Okay, well, the first one that comes to mind that's really, really obvious for me might not necessarily be obvious for other people, but it's a mistake that I see a lot of business owners making is don't try and wear too many hats, right? Stick to the thing that you're best at. And I blame the education system for this, right? And the reason for that is in school, if you were getting an A in like one or two subjects and then you were getting Fs in all the rest of them, your parents would be called into school like he's failing, it's not working. But that's not how business works. You can't be a generalist that's good at all of these things. Like you're never going to be as good at operations, sales, marketing, finance, admin, HR. Like it's not possible. These are different people with different characteristics and different skills. So the first one is to establish what it is that you're best at and then surround yourself with people who are equally as good at their part. That's the first thing I want to say. The second one, especially when it comes to content creation, whether that's podcast appearances, keynote speeches, even just social media marketing and blogs, is stop aiming for perfection because it doesn't exist, right? It would be better that you just put something out there than you kind of, the amount of times I hear this, I recorded 2 or 3 podcast episodes and I never released them because they weren't that great. Well, they're not impacting anybody sat on the hard drive of your computer. Just release them, get them out there, see what it's all about. And the third one, in a similar vein to that, is stop trying to play a part. Right? You're not an anchor for CNN. You don't need a certain polished personality. Podcasting and social media is about social interaction. So the more authentic and genuine you can be, the better. Which also takes me back to the saying I use a lot, which is your vibe attracts your tribe. Okay. You want to attract the people to work with you that are right for you and you're right for them and you enjoy working together. if you're playing a character, if you're pretending to be somebody that you're not, you're going to attract people that don't really resonate with you. They resonate with this fake person, this fake character, this Instagram lifestyle thing that you're trying to portray. And you're going to end up with fake friends rather than people that you actually resonate with and are energized by. So they're the top 3 mistakes to avoid.
What is your greatest failure story? What did you
Oh,
learn? How did you recover from it?
it's a very painful one. Okay, so I was working with this client and I learned a lot from it. So I'll tell you what I learned from it kind of as we go through. But I was working with this client and I invested a lot of time and effort into working with this one client, maybe about 4 or 5 months intensely. I only did their work. And they were supposed to pay my invoice in October and it didn't get paid. And then it was going to be November and it didn't get paid. Anyway, the week before Christmas, I get a phone call from the people who work in the office to say, do you know where the owner is? And I was like, no, why would I know where the owner is? And they said, he's cleared out the office. We're all stood in the car park outside and we can't get in. And what had happened was the owner of the business had been generating all this investment, all of this fund, all this intellectual property, and had done a runner. He'd left with everybody's money. He didn't pay salaries for people. So that, I mean, we're talking 20 kids who work on the phones in telesales who didn't get paid their wages the week before Christmas. It doesn't sound like a lot of money now, but at the time, it was a $60,000 invoice. No, it wasn't. It was a 60,000 pound invoice. So about $75,000, $80,000. And it was really painful, like excruciatingly painful. And I had to get a credit card out. Because my credit wasn't great, I got like a £1,200 limit on my credit card. And I literally had to do Christmas for Christmas shopping and buy for my children and get them presents and all this kind of stuff, all off my credit card. My wife and I didn't get presents for each other, nor did we get presents from our children for us because they were still quite young. And it was single-handedly the most painful experience of my entire life. I have never felt like such a failure in that moment because yes, he did that to me by not paying my invoice, but I put us in that situation. I made that decision. I made the decision to work with him. I made the decision to get paid on delivery. I made this decision to not work with any other clients and only work with that one person. So if you want to ask how I learned from what I learned from it, it would be get paid up front. so now people pay at least 50% of my fee up front for our services, or we don't start work. We don't start work until that first invoice is done. And that might sound harsh, but I've learned that lesson the hard way. I'm not going to make that mistake again. The second thing is not to have all of my eggs in one basket, because I worked with this one client on this really big project. So, I would rather have 10 clients paying me, a smaller amount than one client paying me $1 million a year. You know what I mean? And the reason for that is if it goes bust, it's the same as having a job and then losing your salary. And it was the same. It was the same pain. It was the same place. And then to go on.
How did you recover from that large failure?
I mean, you just kind of have to dust yourself up and carry on. I mean, a lot of that Christmas period was difficult. Obviously, it was very painful, but it was also a good time to reflect because there wasn't a lot of things happening at that point. So by the time sort of middle of January came around and the businesses had started to reopen again, I not only had the hunger to go and start making money and pushing out and really kind of getting back in the market because I had to. I mean, I've got a credit card to pay off as well. So now I have to go and do the work. But I'd also then applied all of these lessons. So I completely redesigned my payment structure. I decided that it was going to be better to work with 10 clients than with one. So therefore I could, have a tenth of the price, which means I redesigned the packages. So it became much more about, great, I'm going to go and get these 10 clients because then if I lose one or I lose two, I'm still okay, rather than put myself in that position again. So, you just have to pick yourself up and dust yourself off. And I had a couple of teammates around that time as well who, and I think this was the worst part for me. I couldn't afford to pay them what they'd earned because I hadn't been paid. So now, as much as I had this ill feeling towards this person for making my Christmas crappy, I was now doing this to other people. And it was enforced. I've never felt so guilty in my whole life. So now the people that were with me and they stuck by me, I was very proud of that. They stuck by me. And there was a real sense of, I need to make this right for them just as much as for me. So that was where I really pushed it and pushed on, and that was my driving force behind recovering from it.
How did you communicate to your members? You're not paying for them. They are really blaming you, and you are blaming somebody else. And then what? How
Yeah.
do you keep the communication open?
Well, look, I've been very open with them from the beginning, so this wasn't something that kind of came as a surprise. In fact, to my sort of amazement, when I sort of spoke to them the week before Christmas, many of them had already kind of said, "Well, we thought this might be happening, so we've borrowed some money, or we've got a credit card, or like one guy got a loan out and was like, look, when they hadn't paid in October and then November and then the 1st of December, we kind of thought that something like this might be happening." I was quite naive, and I believed the whole check is in the mail kind of story at the time. And it was like, oh, is it not landed yet? The accountant said they sent it 2 days ago. It should be there. Check it again now. And I'd be there checking my bank going, it's not there. There's something really weird happening. And the money had never been sent. But communication is key, right? So it wasn't like I told them about this the week of the 20th of December. We'd spoken about this from October to say it's not here yet. As soon as it is, this is what we do. And I think that the earlier you can communicate things with your team, the better. Now, it's not to worry them about anything, but it's the difference between being a leader and being a boss. I think being a leader is about, guys, look, this is the situation, this is where we are, we're all in this together. Being a boss is kind of keeping hold of it until you can no longer, and then saying, look, I'm really sorry, I've dropped the ball here, I'm not paying any of you. And I think that would have been, well, I know that would have been far worse for everybody if I'd have done that.
Wonderful. The one word answer is transparent. Just communicate.
Transparency is key. You have to be transparent.
Understood. What are your top 3 success secrets that others can model from?
Top 3 success secrets. Okay. Number 1, going back to what I said before, business is a team sport. So find your teammates. That's the first one. So find the people who are really good at bits that you're not, and do some work together. I call these non-competitive partners, right? So these are people who sell to the same industry that you do, but don't do the same thing that you do. That's who I'm talking about here. Number 2, and it might seem like a strange thing to say in this whole hustle kind of grind mentality, but rest. Rest is an incredibly important component to success. You have to rest. You have to know when to switch off. For me, it's meditation. It's spending time with my kids. It's being out in nature. But you have to rest. And then the third one, and I'll give you my actual structure, and you can see how this works for me, and hopefully you can implement this in your own life. I have what I call the immovables. Right, there are immovable things in my life that work fits around. That is breakfast, lunch, and dinner with my family. That is non-negotiable. I don't like to set an alarm in the morning when I wake up because I don't sleep very well. I'm one of these people who, if I have an alarm set, I wake up every hour to check how long I've got left to sleep. So I don't do any meetings before 11 a.m. so that I can wake up naturally. So I won't set an alarm. And I only work 4 days a week. I work Monday, Tuesdays, Thursday, Fridays. Wednesdays and every weekend are mine, and they are off. The only other immovable is because I'm a massive Liverpool fan. Anytime Liverpool play, there's no talking to me during the game, and there's no talking to me after the game. Because if we've won, I'm like a giddy child, so I'm paying no attention to what's going on. And if we've lost, I'm in such a bad mood, you don't want to talk to me anyway. So they're the immovables in my life. So for you, have those immovables in your life. Get your calendar out on your phone, and for the next however many weeks, do it for 4 weeks and see how it feels. Block out your time in the gym, your time to watch TV with your family, your time to have lunch and dinner. Block out time to take your children to the park. But don't fit your family around work. Do it the other way around.
Great lesson in all this. We are about to move into lightning round. That means quick question and quick answer. Are you ready?
Let's do it, brother.
What are you grateful for today?
Life. I love my life.
How young are you?
32.
Phil, you are not 32. You are 18 years old with 14 years experience.
Yeah, exactly, brother. Yeah, I look like a 50-year-old, but I genuinely am 32.
What you want to do when you grow up?
I wanted to be a footballer, soccer player for you. And up until like my early 20s, I was well on target for it. I'd played professionally and then got medically retired. So I was going to be a football player.
No, what you want to do when you grow up from
What
now
do
on?
I want to do when I grow up?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm already grown up. No, so my big goal now is that Billionaires in Boxes becomes the world's most recognized business broadcast network that is aimed entirely at growth generation for the emerging markets. That's where I'm heading. So I want to be the chairman of that.
How do you overcome and challenge life throws at you?
There's a lesson in every challenge, right? And life only throws it at you if there's something that you need to learn. So the very first thing I try and do is look at it objectively, and I kind of make two decisions. Number one is, how do we get through this right now today? And number two is, what can I learn from that to make sure that life doesn't give it me again? Because if you don't learn the lesson from it, it keeps showing up. So yeah, those two things.
How do you start your day?
Meditation and Tony Robbins priming exercise.
What is the advice you will give to younger yourself?
Keep going. Just keep going. Nothing else, because I'm a bit superstitious when it comes to time travel. So if I went and told myself too much, it might change the course of what happens. And as I said, I love where my life is at today, so I wouldn't change it. But just keep going.
Once you have a revenue generating idea, how do you convince your significant other?
It's easier these days than it used to be. Because now she's seen what my ideas can do. So now she's just kind of like, yeah, sure, go for it. Whereas before there was I remember when I first left my employee position, for example, she thought I was nuts. Like, she thought I was so crazy. It's like, you've got a board level position, you're going to have a nice pension, we've got the company car. Like, what are you doing? And I remember for about the first 2 years of being in business, like, not all the time, because that's doing her a disservice, but like periodically I'd hear things like, shouldn't you go and get a real job again? But now it's much easier, because I think it's persistence, isn't it? You have to show people with your actions. So if you have an idea and you push on, I often say the people who tell you that you can't do it are the ones who ask you how you did it.
What is the impactful business book you have read, and what did you learn from it? Can I see that, please?
You can. Dan, I'm giving you a shout out again, buddy. You need to start paying me commission. This is Daniel Priestley's Entrepreneur Revolution. And I love this book. And I'll tell you why I love this book. It's all about the shift from the industrial mindset revolution of, go to school, go to college, get a job, move to the city, get a job, work your way up through a company, stay there for the next 30, 40 years, and then retire as an old person, with not enough time or energy left to enjoy your life and enjoy everything you've earned. And it's very much about, creating micro businesses that strategically partner with other businesses and taking the office from that real estate in central downtown to the beach and a laptop wherever it is you want to work. So it kind of touches on that digital nomadic lifestyle as well. Talks a lot about globalization. If you're doing business in one geographical location and that has a recession or something, you're in a lot of trouble. Whereas if you've got clients all over the world and one market starts to dip, you can just focus on another market for a period. So yeah, I highly recommend it, especially for those who maybe have a side hustle, or they've been thinking about leaving their corporate job and kind of going and starting off something on their own. It's a very inspirational book to read for that purpose.
Why being impactful is important to you?
It's difficult to answer that question. I guess it's where my energy comes from. Like I want to feel like I'm serving a purpose, right? Like I said to somebody just earlier today, I don't just want to help people make more money. That's not what this is about. Money's money, right? Once you have enough money, it's no longer even a thought process. You don't even check your bank account anymore. So it's not, money's only important when you don't have it, right? So it's not about that. It's about, when I talk about wealth creation, that includes every aspect of wealth. That means you're wealthy in your bank. It means you're wealthy in your life. It means you're wealthy with love. You're wealthy with your health. You're wealthy in friendships. So being impactful is so important, because I remember where I came from, and I remember those times in my life that I didn't have any of those things. And I'm aware that there are other people in that place and going through that pain, and to know that I have the ability to change that for them and then not do it wouldn't feel right with me at all. Like ethically and morally, it wouldn't sit right. So to be impactful kind of feels like it fits in with my life's goal, right?
Who is your living mentor and what's the impact?
Okay, so I have a number of mentors actually, but there's a guy who comes to mind straight away whenever somebody asks me about my mentor. And I've told him this many times actually. And what's interesting is our businesses are probably quite similar sizes now, which is nice. But he's a self-made multimillionaire from Zimbabwe that made his fortune in the UK in the real estate industry. And one of the things that I love about him isn't just his self-made determination and the fact that he changed his circumstances for him in his life. It's how many people he empowers around him. I've seen this man have to make difficult decisions in his business when it comes to employees, and it hurts him more than it hurts the employees. Like he feels it so deeply. Like they are extended members of his family, and he wants to reward and uplift those that help empower him. And he's a very giving person. So he is definitely still somebody that, in fact, he was somebody that I'll forever class as a mentor. And the impact is very much around seeing that you can do business in the right way, right? Because there's loads of examples of times that people have been very successful and made money by standing on the heads of other people and not really caring about the people that work for them. But to see somebody be successful and do it in the right way that's caring and ethical and moral and uplifting and empowering, that's really inspirational. So that had a massive impact on me and how I run my business to this day.
Okay, I love to interview your mentor, and are you open to making introduction to him?
Of course I am, yeah.
Thank you. What do you want to be remembered for?
Empowering the emerging markets. That's what I want to be remembered for. I want to be remembered for being the guy who facilitated the learning and the knowledge that allow people to change their current financial situations, their wealth situations, both for them, their families, and their communities. If I can be remembered for uplifting and empowering those emerging markets, like I will rest well wherever it is that I'm buried.
Why emerging market is important to you?
I think there's a couple of reasons. So number one is, I've traveled extensively and worked all over the world, and I think, the UK and the US as two examples, we like to see ourselves as the center of the universe, but we're actually only less than 5% of the population. So what happens to the other 95%? There's the African market, the Latin America and Asian markets, where there are billions of people, many of whom have incredible ideas and incredible innovation, and they haven't had the resources or the connectivity to actually be able to change that and kind of open up and do business with the rest of the world. So now connectivity started to change. So we've got more electricity, more internet. People have, with things like fintech and crypto and blockchain, they now have the ability to move currencies digitally and work with the rest of the world. So the part that I really want to play in that is shining a spotlight on the businesses that deserve to be seen. I truly believe that the next Apple and Microsoft will come out of the emerging markets. And the next 10 to 20 years worth of technological advancements will come from those markets. So I like to say, if I can introduce the best mentors and investors from the established markets to the emerging markets, and the best talent from the emerging markets to the rest of the world, that's where my sweet spot is. So yeah, there's some incredible things happening in those markets, and they deserve to be heard about.
I'm just curious, have you been to travel to Pakistan?
I haven't been to Pakistan. I've been to India. I actually did a couple of events in India, but I've not yet been to Pakistan. In fact, funnily enough, here's an interesting one for you. You might actually even be watching this. I did a meeting about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I'm trying to remember the date. About 3 or 4 weeks ago, with somebody who works with the finance and banking sector for the Pakistani government. And we were talking about how many people still don't have access to a bank account in Pakistan. And we were talking about how that empowerment piece will be very uplifting for them, but only so if it can be plugged in with things like fintech and digital tokenization and cryptocurrency that allows them to actually be able to trade. Because for so many people, it's not just the skills that need to be taught to do business with the rest of the world. It's, well, how are we actually going to get paid because we don't have a bank account? So there's a lot happening there. We do a lot in Southeast Asia, predominantly Thailand, Singapore, Malaysia.
I understand. I just wanted to take you to Pakistan virtually for now, and then introduce you
Sure.
to the
Talk to me.
100 million people with a smartphone, 4G internet, and that's what we're talking is.
You're so right.
Really, when you talk about emerging nation, Pakistan is on the top. I just want to let you know.
But how does that exactly? But you think about that from that just for a moment, right? The smartphone users. If you can create fintech, which we now have, of course, if there is fintech out there that allows people with a smartphone to now have access to a bank account, you no longer need to travel to these more established centers to try and set up an account, to try and do these things. All you need is that smartphone that's in your pocket. Now that's a real game changer when it comes to globalization and when it comes to wealth creation and business.
Okay, we will work on this one. Who is your ideal client?
High potential growth organizations at any level, at any stage, is my honest answer. So we deal with people that are just concept right now and they've done nothing. We do business with people who are pre-seed or Series A, right the way up to taking people who are already public in one location and taking them public into a more established market. So for me, it's the high potential growth organizations. But I want to put a little bit of the caveat on that because I want to stress this point. This isn't just about wealth creation for you, right? If you've got a product or service that's going to make you richer and everybody else poorer, I'm going to work against you, not for you, right? For me, this is about working with businesses that have good corporate social responsibility. It's about empowerment. It's about making things that are sustainable. It's about things that are going to make a positive impact and change on the world, an economy, a community, an industry. If you fit into those criteria, I absolutely want to work with you all day long, and I will do everything I can to empower you.
How can we support you?
Well, I think we've already done the first piece here, haven't we? Yeah, click on here. So there's the first piece is the introductions. I mean, when we talk about our business, I mean, to kind of give you an idea just on our growth side of our business, so growth strategy and the podcast publicity side. We're a 6-figure business at the moment. Within the next 12 months, we'll be a 7-figure business quite comfortably, even just on its current projections. And we don't spend a single cent on paid advertising. It's all that affiliate network, strategic partners, and introductions. And the reason for that is, the highest paid Hollywood agent, the best Hollywood agent in the world, doesn't have 500 clients. They have 5. And for us, it's about working with the businesses of tomorrow, the businesses of the future that need to be put on that spotlight, whether that's a business at concept that needs introduction to funding, or indeed whether that's from an investment bank, VC, private equity firm who already have a portfolio of businesses that they've invested into, and they need someone to make sure that they go from being their industry's best kept secret to being the go-to brand. That's the place and the space that we really like to play. So come talk to us, have a conversation. And I always like to say, if I can't help you, I'm pretty sure I'll know someone that can.
Wonderful. We are about to wrap up. I'd like to have you a few words about your today's guest experience on the show. Here's my question. What would you say about your today's guest experience on the show?
It's a good question. I like it. I mean, I like the fact the questions are on the bottom. That's helpful. Yeah, man, I enjoy podcasting. The thing is, like 13 years of podcasting, well in excess of over 10,000 hours of podcast interviews. I've seen the good interviews. I've seen the horrific interviews. I've seen great hosts. I've seen terrible hosts. And I like a good conversation. I like to meet good people. So it's just been a really enjoyable experience. So thank you so much for having me on the show.
What would you say as a final word?
Take action. Please take action. Like, there are so many people that have great ideas and they're so worried about imposter syndrome or what someone else is going to think of them, or they'll ask 6 of their friends, like, hey, listen, dude, I've got this $1 billion idea, do you think it's going to work? And your 6 broke friends will say, nah, it's not going to work, right? But if you were to ask 6 billionaires that question, you'll get 6 very different answers, right? So stop paying attention to what idiots think. Take the action. Your vibe attracts your tribe. Go and find the right people to support you in this dream, on this project, and what it is that you want to do, and just take the action. Go make a difference.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Phil, for sharing your wisdom with us today. On the behalf of Growth Hacking Secrets community and our entire team, we really appreciate you. This is Mohammed Siddique signing off from Atlanta, Georgia. Until the next episode, all good wishes.